Here.
Here. Would everyone else seated at the table please identify themselves?
Christopher Dignam, Superintendent.
Sandra Hasso, Executive Secretary to the Superintendent.
Andrea Johnson, Director of Equity and Grant.
Gary Gold, Assistant Superintendent Planning. Tom Krieger, Director of Human Resources.
Catherine Anderson, Principal at Deerfield.
Tom Collins, Principal at Park High School.
Christina Doss, Director of Communications and Instructional Technology. And members of the audience, would you also go through and introduce yourselves? Jody Hornberg.
Andrew Brown.
Jen Gordon.
Lizzie Garlowski.
Lauren Schechter. Jacob Montgomery.
Sophie Brown. Samantha Weekes. Debbie Weekes.
Lindsay Christensen. Suzanne Nice.
Mary Peck. Debbie Zeta. Kara Goldstein. Kit Ryan.
Gary Kirschenbaum.
Jill Kirschbaum. Jody DiSaloso. Bella Manzarek.
John Pettit.
Ellen Hattenbat. Denise Mall.
Keith Weiss.
Karen Weiss.
Alec Weiss.
Bridget Farmer. Sandra Whitmer. Ellie Whitmer. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, for introducing yourselves. We do apologize for the parking situation out there tonight. There's a lot going on the other side, so it was a little bit crowded, but we are starting on time. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Citizens' comments relative to matters on the meeting agenda. We welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230, the first comment period is solely for comments about matters on tonight's meeting agenda. Before you deliver your comment, please identify yourself and state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. The second comment period is for comments about any matter. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 2 minutes. We will do our best to address your questions during the relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions or for questions that require additional response time, we will follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. Are there any citizens' comments? If anyone would like to speak? Okay.
Are we going in order?
They signed up.
Okay, so we will follow. All right, so Alex Weiss?
Hi, I'm Alec Weiss. I'm a student at Highland Park High School, and I wanted to start by saying how proud I am to be a part of this district because we're so set on introducing such progressive policy and making sure that no human being is discriminated for any reason whatsoever. Because isn't that what's most important, is being a human and nothing else? There's nothing that should cause someone to discriminate against the other human. I mean, we're all the same effectively. We're all 99.9% the same genetically, so nothing between that 0.01% should allow you to discriminate against anyone else. And, you know, in the news cycle, you hear a lot of horrible things today. I mean, every day you turn on the news and it seems that there's something more that's worse. And being here today really gives me hope, and it makes me feel good that we are trying to progress our society, and I think that's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Katie Moran?
I am Katie Moran. I'm an educator in a sister district. I'm grateful to the work that D113 has done. It's not just about this community, but for the communities that reap the benefits of what you're placing forward. Students lead us in terms of their ability for understanding, and I'm sure you're going to get to those voices soon. But it's important that we understand they look to us as adults for confirmation and understanding and support. This is what this vote exemplifies. It's your vote that says to those students, you are accepted, you deserve equity and protection, and above all, you are like all other students in the building. I'm lucky enough to be a counselor in a neighboring district and hope that our school follows your courageous example. I have that hope for my students. I work for the LGBTQ population within my school as the other students that are on my caseload. I see what they go through, and I see the ability for you all to set an example and to allow them the opportunity to be identified and to have the blanket of protection that says you are valued and you are counted. And so thank you for setting that precedence.
Lauren Schechter.
Hello, Lauren Schechter. I'm a Highland Park resident and also a graduate of Highland Park High School, and I'm speaking on Policy 710, 720, and 7180. I'm a physician who's had the privilege of caring for transgender and gender nonconforming individuals for almost 2 decades. Excuse me. I serve on the board of directors for the international organization WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. I have helped to co-author the standards of care. Those are guidelines that help to provide the treatment principles, medical, hormonal, and surgical for transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. I've authored a surgical text on gender-related surgical principles and recently co-authored the training guidelines for individuals interested in learning surgical procedures. I'm very proud of our district tonight and want to commend the District 113 for bringing forward principles that are consistent with internationally accepted medical principles and humanitarian principles. All children, all individuals in our district should have safe, affirming, have the right to safe, affirming care free from discrimination, and I'm proud to be a member of a citizen and resident of Highland Park. Thank you very much.
Karen Weiss. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, sorry. Sandra Wickner.
Hi, my name is Sandra Wickner. I'm a physical education teacher, and I'm also a sponsor of our HP3 Club, where we talk about issues of race, and I also lead our ski and snowboard club. And the reason I'm here is that I want to make sure that we voice support for our undocumented students, that they are not bullied based on their status or perceived status. I stand here because I've seen my transgender students in PE class, and when I make the accommodations that they deserve, it's a world of difference in class. And I don't know if Andrea Brooks is going to speak, but that person has been in our class too, and they are so happy when I treat them just like everybody else, and that they have the same opportunities as everyone else. And I want to make sure that, yes, we are, providing a learning community that is, free of discrimination, but we want to be a learning community that is supportive to all the needs of our students. Thank you.
Bridget Ferner.
Hello, my name is Bridget Farner, and I'm a Spanish teacher at Highland Park High School. I'd like to thank the board, the policy committee, and our administration for your commitment to our students and staff. I've always spoken with my friends and family about one of the reasons I work for Highland Park High School, and that reason being the support I have received from students and staff to help me be my authentic self in my very public role as teacher and sponsor. My 14-year journey with this district has taken me from a closeted professional to an out and proud lesbian in all areas of my life, not just my private life. This support from this district has improved my quality of life tremendously. This has also improved the lives of students who may fear living their authentic lives out loud. But it has also helped to grow empathy among students who are members of the dominant discourse. A conversation with students helped to move forward the conversation to help serve students in our trans and gender expansive populations. I am so proud of the positive steps that our district has taken to help support members of our most vulnerable populations. I am also a believer that equity impacts all students in a positive way, not just members of minority groups. Just want to double check my other notes.
Always thorough.
Always thorough. My wife says I always go too prepared. Thank you.
Andrew Brooks.
Hi, my name's Andrew Brooks. I'm a sophomore at Highland Park High School. I'm an openly gay man, and I have been totally out for about 2 years. I came out to my entire school through the means of a spoken word poem at Northwood my 8th grade year. The response I received was overwhelmingly positive, and that response and that amazing support has carried through to my years at Highland Park High School. And it makes me proud of our district that, and our community, that we have fostered that support for not just me, but for so many other kids in our community. I have many friends who are part of the transgender, gender-neutral spectrum, all of which just want to feel like they belong and they are comfortable in the place they spend most of their time. Of course, there's always going to be ignorant people who are making fun of kids who stray from the norm, but this district is making huge strides, and I want to see them continue to make giant strides towards the equal rights of all people, but specifically in this case, people part of the LGBTQ plus community. So I can see my friends flourish and feel comfortable and feel comfortable and understood. And I am very proud of our district for all the strides we have already taken. Thank you.
Jody DeTomaso.
Hi, I'm Jody. I'm a proud graduate of Highland Park High School and a single mom of 3 kids. One is a junior in high school and one is about to enter next year. And he is with his sister currently at Elm Place. So I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm really impressed with what I've heard so far. I have kids with special needs, so I represent a different area of an area where kids can be discriminated against because they're different. And I'm super proud of this district for putting together the policies to welcome everybody into the district to feel safe and to be able to grow and learn, and for everybody, because as you can imagine, everybody who's different is set up for the opportunity to be bullied, and that's not okay. Everybody deserves to be safe and be able to learn and grow. It reminds me of when I see somebody with a big belly right out in front of them, and I say to them, get ready for greatness, right, for the first thing. And then the second thing is get ready for the biggest emotion of your life, fear. You will never experience anything more real than fear when you hold that child in your hands. So when you have a child that is different than everyone else, that fear is magnified to a word that isn't even describable. And for this district to be able to embrace our children and embrace them so that other peers and children welcome them in and support it and get it, you know, God bless you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Gary Kirschenbaum.
Hello. I'm Gary Kirschenbaum. My wife, Jill, and I have 2 children. We live in Highland Park, and we're actively involved in our community and our schools. Our daughter, Allie, will be attending Highland Park High School next year. And we're here tonight offering our support to the board as you vote to pass amendments to policies 710, 720, excuse me, 720 and 7180. I've had the unique opportunity to be a part of the policy committee for District 112, representing our elementary and middle schools here in Highland Park and Highwood, to help ensure our schools are providing equal opportunities to all our students, regardless of their gender identity. As you know, our school board unanimously approved to expand Policy 710 to ensure the language we used was fully gender inclusive. We've also made significant progress in crafting our procedures, and we'll soon have a clear blueprint that will reflect the supportive day-to-day efforts now taking place in our schools. So as a parent of 2 cisgender children, I can tell you that these types of inclusive policies have helped all students, including my own children. Jill and I have had the opportunity to have all sorts of great conversations with our kids about their gender expansive friends. and it's basically a non-issue for them. And as parents, we think that's the best possible outcome. And I'd also like to add that the importance of these policies is that it levels the playing field for education for these kids. They have a right to the same education as all the other kids in the school. So I'm very proud of the board, helping us to move these critical policies forward and continuing to create open, tolerant learning environments for our students. Thank you.
Jen Gordon.
Good evening. I'm Jen Gordon. I'm here just to chat briefly about the support, the tremendous support our family has for the amendments in 710, 720, and 7180. My husband and I have been here in Highland Park. My husband's from here for nearly 2 decades. Goodness gracious. And we are raising 4 children in this awesome community. We have 2 who attend Highland Park High School, 1 who graduated last year, thank you, Dios, and another in District 112. I am here along with, goodness gracious, all of these fabulous people to share again my support and praise. I think that those of us who live here in this area recognize what a profoundly special community this is. We care for each other. We support each other. We are tolerant of all beliefs and interested in learning from our beautiful, diverse families who represent dozens of different countries from around the globe. We are also leaders. We're leaders in business and science and education, the arts, philanthropy, social purpose. Stop on any street corner and you'll hear the most remarkable conversations. I have met more superheroes in this district than I can count. It's humbling, and many of them are sitting right in front of me today. But the coolest thing is this. We have created the same dynamic spaces for our children. They are afforded every opportunity to learn and lead with kindness, with respect, and an obligation to stand up for the rights of all. I can't think of a better place to continue raising our transgender daughter. She is thriving because of who we are as a community. On behalf of a whole massive wave of parents who are proudly raising their transgender and gender expansive children here, and who, like our family, are publicly advocating across the country so that others can learn from the things we are getting so right in our community. Thank you for being such an incredible school board. Thank you for leading, and thank you for helping countless other school districts across the state and country who are all watching us this very evening. Thank you.
Ellen and or John Hattenbach.
Hello, I'm Ellen and or John Hattenbach, and I'm speaking on I'm actually speaking on behalf of John and our 2 daughters that we did raise in District 113. They're already done, they're through, and they are off to college. And I'm only here to say how proud I am that these policies are going to be going through. And one of the things that has happened, I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said about it safe and being authentic, and it's such an honor to be here tonight and be part of this. But one of the things that's happened since our girls have gone off to college is that we have been pushing people that are looking where to raise their kids to send them to Highland Park and to send them to Deerfield. We did it ourselves. We were so proud that we did. We felt we raised them in the right place, in the right community. The alternative is if this didn't go through, we could no longer recommend this community. So I'm really happy to be here. Congratulations in advance. and I'll stop on behalf of John, Ellen, Kira, and Mari.
Gira Goldstein.
Good evening to the board and administrators and community. Thank you all for being here, especially the volunteers who work on behalf of all of us. And we have elected you, and you have such an important job now, specifically, that the guidance from Washington has been pulled from children as if these children don't need guidance from the top people in our nation. But the amazing thing is, and maybe you did or you didn't recognize when you were elected as our school board, how important your positions are. And even more so now that the entire country is looking at you as elected officials at very hyper-focused community levels to make decisions on behalf of our community and our children. So I applaud you for stepping up before you knew something like this might land in your responsibility. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you to all of you that come and speak and participate in the community. What we are talking about are children. We are talking about policy numbers, and we rattle them off as if somehow they hold weight or somehow they protect us. But what we're really doing here, right, is talking with our hearts. We're telling these children, gender expansive, transgender children, gender non-conforming, LGBT kids, kids that are here in this country maybe outside of what we would consider legally, but they're here to get educated. They are here because their parents want something better for them. That's what we all want. That's why you ran for school board. That's what we're doing today. We are helping children, but ultimately we are helping ourselves, right? These children that are bullied or don't have a place in their schools, they grow up and they don't have the same opportunities. They don't have training. They can't hold jobs. They end up homeless. And this all starts in our schools. So what you are doing here tonight goes far beyond just allowing kids to be who they are. What you are doing is creating a country that we can all live in respectfully together, peacefully together, learning from each other out of love and respect. So thank you so much. I'm so proud to be part of this community.
Katie Bittner.
My comments are not on the agenda, so they'll hold a second.
Okay, thank you. Suzanne Nice.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Nice. I'm a school psychologist at Deerfield High School. I'm speaking under 8A. And first, I want to thank Andrea Johnson, try not to get emotional, for her leadership in the area of equity and everything that you have given us and the ways you've helped guide us. I want to thank Dr. Dignam for his letter, which I cried when I read it in the email. Try not to cry now. For your letter supporting our undocumented students and our transgender students. It means so much to us and to our students. And to the board, I just want to say to all of you, I think you can tell that I'm very passionate and committed to the needs of all of our students, and particularly our most vulnerable students. And the work that you do makes it possible for them to feel safe at school. So thank you for the hours and hours that I imagine you put forth, and I'm sure that's a small fraction of what you actually do. So thank you for supporting all our students, and particularly for tonight, our undocumented and students in terms of gender identity, gender expression, non-binary, and transgender students. It means a world to me. Thank you.
Mary Pike.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to just speak very briefly. I appreciate the district that I live in and work in. I am grateful to all of you. I can say that when I started working at the high school, I became friendly with a student who was transitioning. And I didn't have the language at the time to understand what was happening. And I also thank Andrea and the district and many of my colleagues for helping to educate me so that I can be a better community member, a better staff member, to make our school and our community, to contribute to making it a safer place. So I am here to wholeheartedly endorse passing 8A, everything under 8A, and just to say how proud I am to live here. Thank you.
Those are all the people that signed up for comments. However, I know some people came in late. If you have a comment that has to do with something on tonight's agenda and you'd like to speak, we do afford 2 minutes to each citizen who would like to. So if there's anyone we missed, now's your opportunity. Otherwise, we're going to move into our agenda.
Good evening. My name is Pablo Alvarez. I'm counselor at Highland Park High School, and also proud, resident here in Highland Park. I have 2 daughters, one who is in 2nd grade, and my oldest, who will, join me at Highland Park High School in a couple of years. And I want to say how proud I am of the district that not only she is in, but the district that she is going to be a part of in a couple of years. Passing everything that you guys have been working on for so long is very important. We believe in all of the equity work that our district works towards, and all of the guidelines and protections for all of our students, including those whom are most vulnerable due to their physical and mental disabilities, citizenship status, as well as all aspects that encompass their sexual orientation, gender identity. I also work as a chess coach at the high school. And right now, we're in the process of getting and organizing 18 students to attend nationals. And what I love about this program is that it provides a home for a variety of students, many of whom will certainly benefit from all of the protections and language that are being passed tonight. And what I love is that our students find a place. And seeing that first time in the students that I counsel, in the students with whom I interact, and the students that are part of this organization, further allows me to express my gratitude and feel proud of everything that is going on tonight to pass all of these policies. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further citizens' comments, we are going to move on to a presentation. Ms. Weinberg, Highland Park High School's Focus on the Arts.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm thrilled to share some of the exciting plans for Focus on the Arts 2017. To start off, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for your continued support of Focus. We're honored by the support we receive from District 113, the Highland Park High School staff, students, parents, and community. It's exciting. This is the 26th Focus on the Arts. It started in 1964, and 52 years later has grown into what we know today, one of the finest arts education programs anywhere. Just a few weeks ago, I received an email from an alum telling me about his experience at the first Focus. He recounted many details, which sort of speaks to the lasting impression this program has on all of our students and our community. Andrew Brooks spoke so beautifully, but I have to tell another story about Focus. And one of my favorite things is the days of student registration. And the students are so excited to be there and to get the sessions that they are looking forward to attending. And rumor has it that junior and senior day, the kids were at school at around 3 o'clock in the morning. And I think Andrew was at school, he can tell us, at 4 o'clock for the sophomore and junior day. to get. So that, to me, that also speaks to the importance of this program to our students. I think it's also a lot of fun to hang out in the hallway. People had coffee and music and sleeping bags, and it was sort of like waiting, I don't know, outside Target to open on Thanksgiving. But it really, even the sign up is a happening. So we're excited. Focus this year will begin with our opening night on Tuesday, April 25th. Tyne Daly is our featured performer, along with alum Dan Kurland and our jazz ensemble, chamber orchestra, and swing choir. Art night will be on Wednesday, April 26th, and 36 professional artists will be just demonstrating their work alongside about 25 Highland Park High School art students. And this is a great event for all ages. It's fun to see the little ones from the community come, as well as our senior citizens participating and interacting with our artists. Spread the word. It's a great family event. On Thursday, April 27th is dance night. We have 5 professional dance companies: Circa Riviera Dance Theater, Chicago Repertory Ballet, Giordano Dance Chicago, Hubbard Street Dance, and Visceral Dance Chicago. And our own collage dance troupe will be performing as well. And I don't know where else you can go kind of in your backyard with free parking, free admission, and see 5 fabulous dance companies like this. So we're really excited about dance night. Our daytime workshops will be held on Wednesday, April 26th through Friday, April 28th. In addition to all the wonderful artists which are highlighted in the program books that are going around, I wanted to just draw your attention to a few exciting projects. We've had a playwright artist in residence over the past few months, and the short plays that are going to be created with our students will be performed on the Thursday of Focus on the Arts. We have a dance artist in residence working with our collage dance troupe, and the piece that they're creating together will be performed during Focus and also during dance night. And this is kind of exciting to me. We have over 6 HPHS alums coming back to present at Focus. They're all taking time out of their days, traveling some of them long distances, to lead workshops and give back to their school. And that they recommend each other, they call me, they say who else is coming, they want their schedule to work out so they can go to each other's sessions. It's really fun to see that sort of excitement among our alums as well. One change to the Focus program this year was the decision to move movie night into the days of Focus, and we renamed it the Focus Film Festival. This gives more students an opportunity to showcase their work and a larger audience to view their work. So we're excited about that. Those sessions filled up like that for their friends to come see. I want to take a minute. They're not with me this evening, but I have 4 parent coordinators: Susan Humrick, Elaine Klein, Pam Lowy, and Ellen Zaslow. They're fabulous. They really are the backbone to this program. We have a student leadership board made up of 42 juniors and seniors who lead over 20 committees with hundreds of parents and student and staff volunteers on those committees. And all together, everyone works really hard to plan Focus on the Arts. And we couldn't do it without the support. I was talking to someone today, and they said, how many people do you think work on Focus? And I said, hundreds just to plan it, and then in a whole nother group of hundreds during those days to help support it. And again, I thank all of you and all of District 113 for your support of Focus.
Thank you. Good luck, Jody. Well, our next report is the principal's report, and Kathy Anderson from Deerfield. This is a hard act to follow.
We can skip it. No. Deerfield as well. So just a few things to recall from the past few weeks. I feel like we haven't been in this room for a while. We just this past week we had the 3rd annual Genocide Commemoration Day at Deerfield. We had a number of events during the day, including a presentation by Holocaust survivor Estelle Laughlin. And if you were able to make it, thank you so much to those who were able to make it. A lot of the board members were able to come. It was just a special time, and I've never heard the auditorium so quiet as people heard her amazing story. So just a great event. So thank you to all who put this together and were able to attend. The dance company show was this past weekend as well. There were 13 different dances choreographed by both students and teachers. There was a special video montage created by a senior student at the very end as well. So it was very nice to provide recognition to our senior students who will be going off to college. And just a special thank you to Sarah Campbell, Nikki Lazaretto, and Michael Clack for making just a fabulous presentation of all the dancers. And there was even a special number where we had a lot of our senior boys partake in the dances, which really throughout the rest of the show. So it was nice to have them involved as well. I announced back in December the money that was raised for school chest. We actually have a new updated amount. Our final amount for school chest is $170,756.11. So very special. That money is going to Propionic Acidemia Foundation, so we're very proud of all the work and all of the support throughout the community. So thank you. And then just something to put on your radar. Might not be as large as Focus on the Arts, but we have a STEAM Career Day next Tuesday, which is when students are able to attend sessions presented by our parent volunteers, including mini medical school, actuarial science, cybersecurity, and molecular biology. So if you want the yin to your yang, come and see STEAM Career Day. And then just something that I'm going to report on in my report is on the District 113 Assessment Committee. The Assessment Committee met for 5 months, 5 different meetings over 5 months from November to March. There were 16 staff members, 4 students, 5 parents, 2 of which were board members, and 2 representatives from our sending districts in 112 and 109. And the goal of the assessment committee was to review the assessment protocol, assessment information from our sending districts, so we'd be knowledgeable about what our students were coming in with. In charge of reviewing our formative assessments, which includes homework, our summative assessments, which includes final exams, and other tests such as PSAT, ACT, and SAT. And this was just really a brainstorming session to provide feedback from different stakeholders, as I listed before, the different stakeholders that are a part of the group. So each meeting, we tackled a few different topics and was able to get a wide variety of perspectives on these different assessment protocols, assessment supports, and then ultimately to be able to provide a recommendation to the superintendent for kind of next steps of how we would like to proceed. So I'm going to, instead of go over all of our meeting minutes for you, provide some of those recommendations and next steps. So first of all, at the very last meeting, our committee members were put into stakeholder groups to provide some of their takeaways from all of our sessions. So our first recommendation is to review the feedback from each of those groups separately, so we get valuable feedback from what each group perspective is. The next is to utilize our new strategic plan to establish a clear value around assessment, to lead an assessment inventory or audit, and that could be done at the district level going into the schools. Some of those things might include talking personally with teachers and other staff to understand current practices. This would enable the new assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction to get to know staff members through the process. Ensures teachers and staff understand the purpose, need, and value of the actual audit itself and assessments. And then areas that we would like to review that are connected to assessment include curriculum, grading, homework, final exams, and just assessment values such as retakes. We would also like to recommend that professional development is provided in regards to research-based assessment practices, provide opportunities for staff to collaborate regarding assessment practices, develop stakeholder assessment focus groups to collect feedback and use for decision making, share with staff the assessment experience that students are having at the sender schools. Just a side note to this, both of our sender schools are utilizing standards-based grading, and so that was something that was important for our sending districts and many parents whose students will be coming into District 113, so our teachers and staff have an understanding of their grading practices that they've had in the past and what that might mean for them in high school. And lastly, just to communicate the District 113 value and use of assessment, so we ensure that everybody understands how we value their feedback and how it has led to decision making in that lens. So I'd like to thank everybody that was a part of our committee. Sometimes it's hard to talk about things like final exams and homework and all the fun things that are part of schooling, but it was a really great time for different perspectives to be heard at the table, and I appreciate everybody that was involved with that. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So one of the recommendations is to make sure that we're clear with our staff and with our community about the work that was done and the fact that it's a brainstorming with recommendations for next steps, because I think that there are many on the team that believe that we've studied it, we're ready to make our final decisions and then to implement them. And so maybe I'm just suggesting that you consider some broader communication on this.
Sure. We clarify that we did share all of the meeting minutes relatively not that long ago with all staff, as well as what the purpose and the goals were in the times that the committee has met and some of the outcomes. And one thing we did share is that overall we will certainly have an inventory of our practices, and this will be revisited next year. We can follow up.
Okay, at this point, we're going to move into board member reports. Ms. Hyman, can we begin with you?
Sure. Okay. First, Thursday evening, I had the honor of attending the Student Honors Dinner. The Chamber of Commerce has this dinner every year that I've been a board member. I have attended it, and I think I even attended it once as a 112 board member. But what makes this evening so special is that these students are all around wonderful students, and they are nominated by staff members. And they're staff members who have seen something special or many special things in these students. We know all of our children are special, but some of the staff members, most staff members connect with particular students for whatever reason, and either in a particular class or particular year. Hearing the testimonials, hearing the information about these students just fills your heart and makes me, as a board member, and I sat next to Dr. Dignam, feel very proud to be part of this district, as did many of the things you said, some of you said this evening already. But to sit in this room and hear the community at large recognize our students for what they do, who they are. Many of them didn't know why they were being nominated, didn't know who was nominating them when Mr. Vogelsheim puts this great video together of these kids. And at the time, many of them do not know who has nominated them. Dr. Colentus was also recognized by Jenny Glasner, who is head of the chamber, because he has been a part of this honors dinner since he's been affiliated with Highland Park High School. He has supported students, supported the efforts that support students, and they wished him a fond farewell and much luck, and recognized all that he has done to encourage the growth of this evening. So I just love going to this, because you see other people. We all talk about the students in this district, but to see community at large recognize and then award scholarships to our students, it's heartwarming. I also went to the Genocide Commemoration Day at Deerfield High School. Unfortunately, I was only able to be there for the presentation. I couldn't walk around that much, but listening to the students' questions of the speaker, the Holocaust survivor, was wonderful. The understanding that there have unfortunately been a number of genocides throughout our history, and to just listen to each other and try and accept each other and not be so quick to hurt and to judge was, I think, a message that everybody took away. And I'm not going to take her words exactly, but the Holocaust survivor said that you still have, if you could take away a feeling of hope that things will get better and will be positive. And for somebody who's been through what she has been through, to come out of all of that and say that meant a lot. And it meant there were some students that were cheering up, which really said a lot to me. And then today, one of the best events our district provides, offers, lets us participate in is the ELS basketball game. And it was between Highland Park and Glenbrook North, right? Glenbrook South. Glenbrook South, pardon me. And Glenbrook South did prevail. However, this was a late start day, and the gym was packed. So I know Dr. Colentus put a shout out to remind everybody, but there were kids there and staff members. It's truly very special, and I think it's even more special for the parents of these children because they show and they see the efforts that we have. So I like being part of that. I'm done now.
Ms. Lobby.
Thank you. That's a hard act to follow. I just wanted to mention that during the month of March, we as board members met with staff here at the Administrative Center and also at Highland Park High School and Deerfield High School in what we called the second round of our sounding board. And the interactions, the conversations were very productive, very interesting, and it was just a good opportunity to glean those insights that we can't always get from a report or from other opportunities. So we're very grateful to all the staff that came to speak to us candidly from the heart, with passion for what they do and for the kids. It's hearing you all tonight talking about how proud you are to be part of this community. It raises us all up because at the core it's the kids, and so thank you on both levels.
Okay. Mr. Small.
I think that next meeting I'll give a more comprehensive update about the Giants Club.
Okay. Ms. Culver. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. I'll just report on a couple of PTO meetings that have happened between the last board meeting and this. And this is at Highland Park High School. The meeting in March focused on a number of different topics, but including the assessment committee. This group of parent volunteers on the PTO were very interested in the assessment committee. And so Barb Sarita had joined, who's on the assessment committee, and Tom was able to speak to it as well, and provided that group with some updates and information that I think was helpful. And they look forward to more information, and they always wish to participate, so it's a group that we should be sure to tap into for future opportunities. The PTO meeting yesterday, the main topic was focused on the arts, and Jody did a great job yesterday explaining what was going on. The PTO is very involved in that as well, so there are a lot of parent volunteers who do both PTO and Focus, and that was a good, productive conversation. Probably of most interest to this board and administration is to provide some feedback, and Annette was at that meeting too, so she could add to what I'm saying. But there was a concern expressed, with Tom leaving. There's a lot of interest and nervousness about who will try to fill his shoes, which are really hard to fill. And so lots of interest in the Highland Park High School principal selection process. A number of individuals around the PTO table had applied and were not selected, and it wasn't clear to them why they weren't selected or who was selected. And what came out of that discussion is a concern, just a concern about whether they're trusting the process, whether the process is transparent enough, and there was a request to hear more information so that they could feel better about the process going forward. So I know Dr. Dignam is going to give some more information in his update about that, but this group, and I think they speak for many parents and students at the school, just want to make sure that they understand the process and feel good about the process, so they have confidence about us moving forward.
Okay. All right. Well, then that leaves me. And I actually have quite a few things. In addition to the PTO meeting, Tom's been very busy over at Highland Park, but there was lunch with Tom this past week too. And actually, it was a working group meeting with the Lake County people who are working with CTAD on a communications program. So this was actually a working meeting for a focus group to determine what things should look like, what the communications should look like, the postcards, the emails, alcohol prevention. So when they next do their spring survey in 2018, during the year of 2017, they will be doing these communications, and they've received a nice sized grant through which to do it. So that was a great working meeting. Sounding board was very active. Tolerance, PTO. Let's just make sure we go through all of these. Okay, so I attended an intergovernmental meeting last week with Dr. Dignam. The intergovernmental meeting is all the different community groups in Highland Park that are governmental agencies. So District 112, 113, the Park District, the Library District, all the different bodies attend with their CEO, if that's their superintendent, and then the president of their board. And there were several things that came up at this meeting, but one of the ones that really surprised me was the city brought up the fact, and this is what I was calling you about earlier, that they were incredibly impressed with the traffic advisory group that has been formed, and with District 113's performance in particular. They gave, and this is not the written write-off, but the city mentioned that our lighting is okay at the Vine Avenue lot. They mentioned that our landscaping is okay at the Vine Avenue lot. They mentioned that relations between the community and the school had not been better in recent memory. And while they acknowledged that, in fact, in the fall there should be a traffic study that this district had committed to, they also stated that they were considering, depending on advice from the group and from District 113, but they wanted to disband the advisory group. And they put it in terms of you should be a creature of your own success when things are going so well that you talk yourself out of a job. So it was a really wonderful meeting, and I mean, Dr. Dignam and I, I'm sorry to speak for you, but we both had our mouths open because we were so excited at that news. So I thought that was really, really wonderful, and I really commend the high school, in particular Patrick Sasson and Dr. Colentis for their work, and certainly Dan Mortensen and Dr. Dignam over at the DO for their work on this project. Debbie has been our liaison this year. David was our liaison last year. It's really good community teamwork that is getting us to a point of perhaps saying, you know what, people can come before this board, people can come before the city council if there are complaints, but at this point it was a job really well done. And it really seems that a lot of the traffic problems have gone away because of good planning and good education and good officials. And I think that a lot of the restrictions that we are obliged to comply with under the ordinance will be eased up. So because that's coming up on the 2-year mark, because appointments have to be made to the committee, whether that's community members, parents, liaisons. Our chair is stepping down because he was elected to the District 112 board. I think that the city's saying there's no need for this group. So I just wanted to announce that because that was really good news. And then the last thing that I really want to speak to, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Dignam when we get to the search committee, but I do want to speak about one part of it. The search committee, and he will go into greater detail, the same process was followed as was followed at Deerfield High School. And I specifically requested that there be 2 board members on the search committee for the principalship of Highland Park High School. And I did that because I felt that there were tremendous voices on this board, and I received several requests from several board members who were incredibly interested and wanted to help with this process. And I was told that, in fact, we were staying true to the process, and that would be too many board members on there and too much influence by the board, and therefore there would only be 1 board member. And because of that, coupled with a couple of other factors, I decided that as my last act on this board, because my term ends in May, at the end of April or May, that I would sit on this search committee. And in part, that's because in the last 15 years, I've either been a parent or a board member, and there's never been a gap. And in addition to that, I've witnessed 5 principals go through the school, whether those were interim co-groups, Dr. Lorenz, Mr. Lorenz, Mr. Swanson, Dr. Calentis, and so I'm going to be the board member who's sitting on that by myself as a board member. But the rest of the composition of this group and the way it has been formed, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Dignam as his part of his superintendent report.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I have a FOIA update, and then I have a couple of items to discuss and provide some information on. So in terms of any FOIA requests, on April 12, 2017, Angel Rodriguez withdrew the FOIA request she originally submitted on January 24, 2017, and submitted a new request regarding electronic communications. We will investigate the request and respond in a timely manner. On March 1, 2017, Ms. Pam Helke submitted a FOIA request regarding electronic communications. On March 24th, the request was denied as voluminous and unduly burdensome. 2 topics I would like to provide an update on are first the board elections. So I'd first like to congratulate our 2 incumbents for winning re-election onto the Board of Education, Ms. Julie Gordon and Stacy Meyer. The elections took place on April 4th, 2017. I also would like to congratulate and welcome Ms. Lizzie Gorlovsky on being newly elected to the Board of Education. Although the final results will not be certified until the end of the month, and that will be approximately April 25th, I would like to congratulate all 3 candidates who will begin serving on the Board of Education for a 4-year cycle beginning in early May. We have already reached out to Ms. Gorlovsky, who is present this evening, and have begun sharing information to ensure a seamless transition occurs over the next few weeks. The other item I want to give a in-depth update on is the search for the Highland Park principal. We have provided several updates to all stakeholders over the last month or more, and I would like to provide an update as to where we are in terms of last night and again this morning. I would like to let everyone know that the search for the next Highland Park High School principal in our remaining timeline is to have this conducted by the end of April. Our goal is to actually have this conducted by April 25th, as that will allow us the week after to either make recommendations, or if we do not have a contract principal identified, then we will need to go through an interim search, and it gives us 2 months to conduct that search. As previously communicated to all stakeholders, we retained Rain Associates to conduct the search to screen, interview, and identify viable principal candidates. The deadline for principal applicants to submit their materials was last week on Friday, April 7th. Rain Associates received a very strong set of 30 completed applications. Rain Associates has also been reviewing candidates' packets and conducting interviews with applicants to identify a cohort of semifinalists. By Friday this week, at the very latest, Rain Associates will be presenting a group of semifinalists to our Human Resources Director, Mr. Tom Krieger, as well as me, to further screen and interview the candidates. On Friday, we will be provided all semifinalists' completed applications, resumes, letters of recommendation, search firm interview results, report of the search firm findings, and supplementary video recorded candidate interviews. Rain Associates has been providing this service over the last month or more. We will be screening and interviewing candidates through the weekend and into next week. Mr. Krieger and I will be conducting our semifinalist interviews on Wednesday, April 19th, with the goal of identifying 2 or 3 finalists for the Highland Park High School principalship. We will be presenting the finalists to the Stakeholder Interview Committee for final interviews on Tuesday, April 25th. The Stakeholder Interview Committee will consist of the following representatives: 2 certified staff members, 2 non-certified staff members, a department chair, a director, 1 assistant principal, 1 member of FAC, 1 member of DEA. Those are 2 staff representative bodies. The administrative assistant to the principal, the Deerfield High School principal, 1 Board of Education member, the Human Resource Director, the superintendent, 2 parent representatives, and 2 student representatives. It is important to note that we are utilizing the same administrative search process that was conducted and created last school year by Human Resources through an administrative interview process team. We believe this process is inclusive, provides credibility, and will result in the identification of a viable set of candidates for the final step of the interview process. This is the exact same process employed for Deerfield High School principal searches, the director of district position searches, the assistant superintendent searches that were conducted over the past 2 school years. I would personally like to thank everyone who has completed the stakeholder survey and submitted questions for use in screening and interview candidates. When we initially contacted stakeholders last month to provide input and volunteer for the committee, we communicated we would contact all individuals who volunteered by Friday, April 7th. Mr. Krieger, in fact, contacted all volunteers who provided their contact information by Thursday, April 6th. Although the stakeholder interview committee is limited in size and cannot accommodate every stakeholder in interview process, all stakeholders who completed and submitted questions on the survey are represented in the process. So I want to explain a little bit how we're going to use that data. The survey was pivotal for us in determining 7 attributes of our next principal for Highland Park High School. The survey conducted a list of attributes that all stakeholders, students, parents, staff members, they ranked in order of the top 7. We are now going to take those top 7 attributes that stakeholders created questions for, and we will align those to make sure that they fit the values in our district, such as items that are important for equity, for college readiness, for providing extracurricular opportunities for students, et cetera. This process will take place now that we have this data. Tom Krieger and I have been working on that, and will be used for the selection of our candidates. Mr. Krieger and I will be using this for screening beginning this weekend and for interviewing candidates. These stakeholder constructed questions will be utilized throughout the process and will in fact be utilized by the committee who is going to represent the district on April 25th. To summarize, Tom Krieger and I will be sharing the data from the survey after stakeholder interview committee has received the data on Monday, April 17th. Once we've had that meeting with the stakeholder committee, Mr. Krieger and I will then share the data with all stakeholders, provide what was collected, and how we will use the 7 attributes that I've briefly summarized here as a means of communicating that data. Again, this is what was performed at Deerfield High School for their searches for their principal. And that will frame the structure of the April 25th stakeholder interview committee. A couple of small items in terms of preliminary volunteer data. When in the survey that went out and asking for volunteers to be on the committee, 7 certified staff members volunteered, 6 non-certified staff members volunteered, 3 department chairs, 1 director, 24 parent representatives volunteered, and 6 students volunteered to be on the committee. And so we could not have everyone on the committee, but what we will do is make sure that the data we've collected from everyone is part of that structure for the interviews. Thank you.
Is that all for your report?
Yes.
All right. We move on now to approval of minutes. Just make sure I'm on the page, excuse me. I need a motion to approve the revised minutes for March 13th, 2017, the regular board meeting, March 13th, 2017, closed session, March 15th, special board meeting, and March 15th, closed session. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We have 2 discussion items, the first one being the cooperative purchasing paper bid. Mr. Bolick?
Hi, thanks. It's our standard annual bid. We're real happy with the results. We had a couple questions from the board members. Basically, last year's participants were 109, 112, 113 City of Highwood. We had a couple new players and a couple people drop out. We also approached control of City of Highwood, Deerfield Park District, Bluff, District 65, 115, the high school, New Trier, North Chicago, NSSED, and Village of Deerfield, and you can see who participated in the action item. Happy about the bid. Rates came in really good. It's a little misleading with that ream per paper, because that's just the white one, but it also included color paper and some other stuff, so that's why that total dollar amount was the lowest, most reasonable bid person. So we're happy with the number.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments for Mr. Bullett? If not, we move on to 7B, the 2018-19 school calendar. Dr. Dignam?
So we have submitted a school calendar to the district, and that calendar, I would like to just state that it is a calendar that was the result of much of the work that was actually led through Dr. Clentus's efforts with the calendar committee. And that committee started in May of the last school year and concluded with what we have presented to the board now as a calendar with several changes to the dates for different holidays that we are going to suggest we modify in order to complete our final exams in a much different fashion we have in the past to really have the final exams before the winter break. And so in terms of the calendar, some of the changes that I would just mention briefly here, and again, this also, these changes came through a cooperative effort with Dr. Clentus, myself, and our DAC, which is a district-wide representative group for all staff members, and they actually created this calendar in concert with us. So the staff was represented through this body. But the couple of items just to mention briefly, the start date will be Monday, August 20th for 2018. Columbus Day will be a student attendance day. District 113 will not observe this as a holiday. Board of Education will need to take action to waive the Columbus Day holiday in compliance with Public Act 96-640. The first semester final exams will take place, a change there will be December 18th, 19th, and 20th. Friday, December 24th will be a Staff Institute Day for no student attendance. This will allow grading preparation of the student exam materials, and it also will serve as a buffer in the event that we have to move a school day for whatever reason. It could be anything, pipes bursting in a building. It doesn't have to necessarily be storms, but that allows us some buffer to not have a situation where we end up having to have a final after winter break because of using an emergency day. Winter break will officially begin on Saturday, December 22nd in the 2018-19 proposed calendar. All students and staff will return from school on Monday, January 7th, 2019. In February, in 2019, some modifications. Here's some changes. February 15th and Monday, that's a Friday, Monday, February 18th, President's Day will not be attendance days for students or staff. Tuesday, February 19th will be an institute day for staff and non-attendance day for students. In March, that's a change, so there's an extra day that month for non-attendance. Casimir Pulaski Day on March 4th will be a non-attendance day for staff and students. Third quarter will end on Friday, March 22nd. Spring break we have scheduled in this calendar to begin the week of March 25th. In April, Good Friday, April 19th, and Easter Monday, April 22nd will be non-attendance days for staff and students. And in June, the second semester finals will take place on June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with Records Day on Thursday, June 6th. The last day of school is scheduled to be Friday, June 7th.
Is there any, Debbie?
Okay.
Ms. Hyman.
My first question, and I've asked this before, and the law may have changed, but my understanding is that religious-related days off of school should just be marked as non-attendance. Is that true? I mean, is this just here for information? As was the grid that we got, the calendar? It will just be marked non-attendance.
That's correct. Ms. Hasso and I spoke about that today, and the way the law is stated, we have to list the other holidays, but those will be non-attendance days.
Okay, then my next question is, I don't ever recall Easter Monday, and I was curious if that is replacing a day that we are not taking off. Is that because for the number of days for the teacher contract? What does this?
So there's an interest.
That's new.
Right. That's a great question, and this came up. And Tom was with me at this meeting. It was a robust discussion about the days. There are a certain number of days we have to have student attendance per year, and because there was that shift in the first semester with Columbus Day, then we ended up with other days that we had to account for. And so it ends up in this particular year, and it may not be that this happens every year. Some years we may have those other holidays or that are not, like Columbus Day may not be observed, but there could be other years where we do not have that extra day or days in the second semester. The way this calendar is right now with the way the days are falling, that in the second semester we ended up having those other days off where we had the unbalanced semesters.
Julie?
Yeah, so what I heard you say, Dr. Dignam, is with respect to the Friday before winter break, the finals would be on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and if there are no snow days or no broken pipes or whatever, Friday would be, as an example, Friday would be a day off for students.
Correct.
But it would be a grading day for staff.
Correct.
If there's a snow day on one of the finals days or a broken pipe or whatever, would we potentially have that Friday be a makeup day for finals?
We could do that. We had the flexibility of doing that. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to have that cushion there, because we felt a little better saying, we could, and if this calendar is approved, we would explain it in a letter going home saying this would be something that could occur,
Okay.
but that does give us a cushion.
If that's the case, if there's a chance that we might want students to be in town that day, I personally think we have to make it clear in every summary of the calendar that that's a potential school day, because otherwise I think you'll get a lot of people leaving town on that Friday and booking trips well in advance, and they won't be able to make changes. So we'll have a potential makeup day that half the student population may not be at, or some part. So I'm very comfortable having it as a makeup day. I just feel like we need to be very clear in our communications that it could be a potential school day if in the event of an emergency before that.
And that's something we will do, because there could be any emergency that happens in September that, we got to use that date. So, and it could be later, it could be November or even December. So we will provide that information knowing that that's the reason the schedule is like that in the event we need to use that.
Okay, I just, maybe just rehash the point a little bit more. We can't call it a no student attendance day and then change our mind. We have to, in my opinion, it'll lead people to take that day off. So, whatever the language is, if we expect students to be available that day, we just need to be clear in our communications.
Okay.
Ms. Culver?
So it would be, okay, so just so I understand, you could make up finals if you had to on that Friday. I guess I was under the impression if we had to have a snow day sometime during that first semester, like the 3 days of finals would shift. So instead of being Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, now finals would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That was my understanding by having that cushion. If that's not what you're saying.
No, I think we're saying the same thing. That in the event that we have some reason there's an emergency closure of school, what would be communicated is that week of December, finals will shift a day.
So all the finals days will shift.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, this will, when it comes up, Mr. Small, but just so you know, when it comes up for an action item, we will have further discussion. Mr. Small?
So what will actually happen on Easter Monday?
Right now, there won't be school.
No.
So it's just a holiday, so it's just an extra holiday.
It's an extra holiday we needed to place somewhere because of the numbers of days in our calendar.
I see, because of our staff contracts or number of, in other words, if we're looking at, for example, the need to have an additional day because of this, weather event, is that one of the days that could optionally be used for that?
Technically, anything could be used for that. If that's come up with school districts where you have a weather event in March and you need to use a holiday that's coming up later on and it's now an attendance day for students.
So that is an option for that day.
That's an option for that day.
With this calendar overall, it's relative to prior years, it's the same exact number of instruction days and the same exact number of professional training and institute days.
Those numbers are the same. But what's different are maybe the number of days in the quarters or the overall semesters, because they're off by about 10 school days in this calendar.
All right, so we'll move on to our action items, of which we have several tonight. So we're going to begin with policy 6-140. And we're doing each policy separately, just for all board members. We're going to do motions for each one individually in case there are questions or people need further discussion. So at this point, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 6-140, the education of homeless children, as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. This was discussed in the past, as of all of these. I will say this is a press update regarding the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's been reviewed by the district's legal counsel, and the recommended modifications are reflected. Is there any further discussion?
Is there anything admin wanted to say on this one? Nothing further?
Okay.
Okay.
Hearing nothing further, I'd like to call for a vote. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Lobby?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Culver? Aye. Ms. Littlewood?
Aye. Motion passes. Number 2, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education delete current policy 7-15, student records, and adopt the new policy 7-340, student records, as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, again, this is also press updates. The policy had been reviewed by district's legal counsel, and the recommended modifications are reflected in the proposed policy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Lobby?
Aye.
Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. We now move to policy 7-10, the equal educational opportunities. Before we begin with this policy, I would just like to state, first of all, well, there's no motion on the floor, but actually, let's do it that way. So, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 7-10, equal educational opportunities, as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. I just wanted to, first of all, thank everyone who has come and spoken, both at our discussion meeting and at our action meeting, in support of this policy. And I want to thank you especially because this is not something that we take lightly, and this has been worked on for a great deal of time. I also want to state that we've received several letters, both in support and in opposition to this. And whereas those letters are mostly given to all board members, and therefore everyone sees them, I, as board president, do respond or refer them to administration, to Dr. Dignam, for a further response. But the letter that I received this afternoon, which calls me a marketer of evil and prays for God's guidance for me because I'm so lost, and that Highland Park is a haven for stupidity and immorality, and goes through every one of these policies and says why this board should not pass it, should remind us as a board and as a community that it's important to have these protections in place. So I just want to say that there are two sides to this issue, and even though you may hear all the same voices at this meeting, at the last meeting, and within our community, it's important to note that even within our community or outside of it, we have received several letters, not as threatening as I've received before, but that do call us some nasty names for going forward with this. Anyhow, is there additional comment? Julie?
I just also want to thank everyone for coming out and just say that I'm proud to be part of this community where people come out and speak up and bond together on topics like this. I wish we didn't have to have policies like this, but we do, and I'm glad that we do. I'm glad that there's support, and I'm proud to be on the board right now. I guess I'd also like to, because I'm not sure we'll ever have an audience this big again, during Andrea Johnson's tenure, since she's retiring at the end of the year, but a lot of the work around equity, a lot of the work around these policies has happened because of the leadership of Andrea, not just this year, but in past years. And I would just like to publicly thank her for her leadership and really making us an outstanding district. So, thank you.
Small?
When I first joined the board, I was instructed that I was not permitted to clap during citizen comments. And I actually thought that it was very difficult for me to follow that. And tonight I really missed the opportunity to be able to clap. And sometimes we sit with very straight faces and we're unempathic, and so I feel a little bit like we're not communicating well. And so I just wanted to share a few thoughts. So as a board, we've dealt with a lot of very difficult decisions over the 6 years that I've been part of the board. And sometimes we have very definitive differences of opinion. But when it comes to issues like this, I think that this board has been remarkably consistent and remarkably unified. And so, like Julie and others, I'm sure, I feel very good about being part of the board, and so I thank the board for their support of this. I'd also like to thank Stacy and Debbie and Alina for the work that they did in the policy committee to make certain that we were very careful and thoughtful in the language that was used precisely. And I'd also like to call out Andrea as well for being a champion and also to help us to remind why we're here ultimately, and it's for the kids. And thank you, Dr. Dignan, for reinforcing this, not just through the correspondence, but kind of whenever we get together and talk about issues. There were a number of comments that were made tonight that I thought were particularly salient, so I just thought I would mention a few because they really resonated with me, and I hope that they did with you as well. Students look to adults for examples of leadership, and I think that is true. Providing a safe, affirming care free from discrimination, allowing the authentic self to emerge. Equity impacts all students in a positive way. All students want to belong. Providing an open and tolerant learning environment. Our interest as a community in learning from a diverse population. Talking with our hearts. And then finally, Vera, thank you for saying this, but creating a country where we can all live together in love and respect. And so I'm just very thankful for all of you that came and shared this with us tonight. And thank you to administration and board for really supporting this effort.
There is one person that we did not thank from administration, and Sue Hebson really deserves a great deal of credit too. Andrea, your leadership on this has been amazing, but Sue has worked hand in hand with policy committee and with our board members very, very closely. She's the one who's run back and forth to legal counsel, and so since she's not here tonight, I didn't want her to be forgotten. And similar to your point, I don't know when we'll have that kind of an audience to thank her publicly for that work too, and Dr. Dignan, obviously. So can I ask for a roll call vote at this point?
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Smalley?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye. Motion passes. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 7-20, prevention of and response to harassment, including sexual harassment, as presented. And there is a revision that one should note in the policy on page 2 of the 4 policy 7-20, which is all students, and it no longer refers to both male and female. It says all students are prohibited from harassing fellow students, staff, or others, instead of students, both male and female, because it's not gender. It's identifying in a way we don't want to do without a they in there. So, are there any other changes to it? Okay, so hearing none, is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Thank you, Debbie.
With the revised
With the
policy.
revised, thank you. And Elena gives a second, and is there further discussion? And hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Smalley?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon? Ms. Culver? Aye. Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye, motion passes. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 7-180, the prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. And are there any revisions? Which there are. So there are a few I need to mention on page 3 of 5. We've taken out social work services and school psychological because it's counseling services, which is broader. Again, we took out he or she and replaced it with the dean of students will take, because even in our professional staff, we want to make sure that we are sensitive in our language. So further down, we also say the dean of students. We say the deans instead of his or her. And we mention services, school, and services in general instead of just school social work services or psychological service. So it's broader. In every case in this, we tried to broaden the language. So thank you to our committee. With these revisions, is there a motion?
So moved with revisions.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. May I ask for a roll call, please?
Can I just discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Debbie.
Andrea, could you just discuss where the revisions came from? What group of people?
Yeah,
discussed
yes.
it?
So for both 720 and 7180, the more inclusive language came from our gender expansive support team. We reviewed it after the last board meeting, and then it was brought to the policy committee meeting this morning. The other thing we talked about this morning at the policy committee meeting is whether or not, as other policies come forward, whether we would also begin to look at every policy in terms of gender inclusive language and just being deliberate about a lot of the language that we're using so that we are signaling to our community that we really are listening and supportive of all. This is not too different than what we did regarding forms several years ago when my position was created. That was one of the first tasks we did. We looked at all the forms that go out from the district to make certain that we're signaling to our community that there are a lot of kinds of families, right? And we wouldn't want anyone to feel like their family isn't part of our community. So although we won't do a massive search all at once, as they come to the committee, there's a commitment to begin to keep looking at language so that we're current.
Elena.
I just wanted to add that, again, thanks to the leadership of our administration, we have now adopted that as another lens through which we evaluate the language of all policies. And since we're committed to reviewing all policies in a 5-year sequence, again, it won't be overnight, but we're going to get there. And just an example of the inclusive language that Andrea has already implemented is something as simple as parent 1 and parent 2. You know, it's a different world. So thank you for your leadership.
And,
Ms. Hyman.
and on that note, our policy committee meetings are at the very convenient hour of 7:45 in the morning on Wednesdays, and which is why we get so many people that want to come and give public comments. But they are open meetings. We used to have a gentleman that was there every policy committee meeting. He's found other things to do. But if you want to hear the work that goes on relative to policy, we have 3 board members typically at the meeting. The meetings are always open. So again, if you have nothing else to do at 7:45 and want to hear there is a lot of rich discussion that does take place at our policy committee meetings in between when it's presented to the board and it's voted on, and then after it's sent back to us, and many have been sent back to us, or it's been changed because of the law. So anybody who's here and everybody in television land that wants to come, there's good discussion.
And dress is casual.
Very.
Okay.
Was that a hand?
This is a roll call vote. Roll call.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Culver? Aye. Mr. Small? Aye. Ms. Lawley?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 7-130, student expression as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Ms. Lawley?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Culver? Aye. Mr. Small? Aye. Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt policy 4-60 purchases as presented. Is this, I'm sorry?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Which one was that?
Oh, you know what? That's in a different order.
Yeah.
I think we need, we need new policy 7-315. But I think that was, no, we did that one. We're fine.
Motion.
460. We're on 460 here. Yeah, that's correct. Debbie, thank you. Your motion stands. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We are on policy 4-60, which is a press update on employment and licensure disqualifications, I believe. I think it's because there was a replacement for 130 was 315.
7-315.
Yeah. So we need to still have 315 separately? Yeah, I guess it is a roll call, but it's not in the right order on here. Okay, sorry about that, Debbie. May I switch that around on you, or may I ask for a different one, which is the superintendent recommends approval of policy 7-315, restrictions on publications in high schools.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, there is a roll call vote.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Smalley.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon. Aye. Ms. Little.
Aye, motion passes. Now we will go to 460, which is purchases. The superintendent recommends that we adopt 4-60, which is purchases as presented. Is
So
there a
moved.
motion? A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Smalley.
Aye.
Ms. Culver.
Aye.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon.
Aye.
Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Little.
Aye, motion passes. We now move to policy 2-230, public participation at school board meetings and petitions to the board. And this one I would like to read because this is a change that affects people who come to our board meetings. Excuse me for 1 minute. The main change here is twofold, and it affects people who've sat through an entire meeting when they wanted to discuss something in the beginning. It's changing the time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes for public comment per person, and it's also opening both of our sessions for discussion of citizen comments to any matter, not just those on the agenda. Yes, we do need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Hyman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Laube. And is there discussion of that, well, that explanation of the changes to our structure? Mr. Small.
I apologize for asking this question at the late hour, but I missed this the first few times that I read it, so it's a question to our policy committee, but it says individuals appearing before the board are expected to follow these guidelines, identify oneself and limit comments to 3 minutes. And so my question is that 3 minutes in total for the meeting? If there are comments at the beginning of the meeting and at the end?
Actually, it should be per comment period. I mean, each comment during a comment period should be 3, unless the committee wants to limit each speaker to 1 comment per meeting, or 1.5 and 1.5. So it's actually a good question. So Elena and Debbie, as the 2 policy committee members sitting here, do you have an opinion on that? And if so, do you want a friendly amendment to clarify it? Because, Mr. Small, I do believe you're correct.
I believe if you added the word identify oneself and limit each comment to 3 minutes, I think it would be clear, crystal clear.
Each comment, but that does mean that a person could speak at 2, each speaker, each comment.
Oh, God.
Identify oneself, so it's the individuals, and then identify each individual, identify themselves and limit their comment. And each comment, and so the comment would be 3 minutes. And I believe that that is consistent with what the board has discussed, because one of the proposals that I had when we had our discussion was that we allow them to speak only once. And
We
the
decided
board was
against
not in
that.
favor of that. The board was in favor of
3 minutes.
2 3-minute options for a total of 6 minutes. And so I believe that this clarification is consistent with what the board previously decided.
All right. So
Can I
Debbie-
just ask for clarification? Are you saying that if somebody writes something, a speech, a comment that could take 6 minutes, that they get up at the first session and they read the first 3 minutes of it, and then they come at the second session and the second public comments and they read the rest of it? Theoretically, that's what we are.
That's what we're talking about. Right now, it's 4 minutes.
2 and 2.
2 and 2.
Well, no, right now, only if it pertains to the agenda is it 2 and 2.
Right, right.
So we're changing that. Okay, so if somebody is interested in presenting a friendly amendment, if everybody agrees that there should be a friendly amendment, does everybody agree that
Well,
there should
first
be
of all,
this change, or do you want to discuss this some
No,
more?
as a friendly amendment, only you and Elena as the presenter. and
No,
the
I
secretary.
understand, but everybody has to agree after the discussion, not just one board member. I want to know, I'm not going to accept a friendly amendment if it's only one person that wants to amend it.
Well, I would like it to be clear. So we're going to vote on the amendment. We're going to vote on the entire statement. And so if you want to accept the clarification, that would be great. The only 2 people who have to accept a friendly amendment are the presenter and the seconder.
I get that.
Okay, so
First
do you
of
want
all,
it to be
what
clear?
is the friendly amendment?
To add 1 word, correct, David?
The friendly amendment would be to
Limit.
revise it again. I apologize, I didn't pick this up until just now. I'm sorry about that. And that's my oversight. Identify oneself and limit each comment.
So it's adding 1 word.
I'll accept that. Will you accept it?
I will also
If there's
accept
no more
that.
friendly amendments.
That doesn't sound very friendly.
As friendly as I can be right now.
Thank you, ladies, for accepting as presenters. Okay, is there any further discussion on this policy? Welcome, Carol. Okay, if there's no further discussion, then I'd like to, Mr. Small.
So, this was a topic that has been discussed by this board for 4 years.
Correct.
And so, I don't know what the outcome of this vote will be, but I think it will be positive. And so I want to compliment this board for making what I think is a very significant, very pro-community change to our established business practice, which is to allow members of the community to comment at the beginning of each meeting on any topic for significantly longer, 50% longer than they had in the past, and then to be able to do it again at the end. So thank you, my fellow board members, for what I think is consistent with making this a friendlier, more community-focused board.
Okay. So, at this point, can I ask for a roll call vote?
Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Lawby.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon. Aye. Ms. Culver.
Aye.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Little.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. Thank you all. We do have some other action items. First of all is 8C. The superintendent recommends, and I don't have the order here. We have textbook adoption first. Superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the proposed textbooks for adoption. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion? There is a list of textbooks that have been recommended and discussed. They've been recommended by our assistant superintendent and for curriculum and instruction, as well as the superintendent, as well as teachers and department chairs for the coming year. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Culver. Aye. Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Lawby.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon. Aye. Ms. Little.
Aye, motion passes. We now move to action item 8C, the Highland Park International trip for the Wind Symphony to Spain. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the international field trip sponsored by the Highland Park High School Wind Symphony to the cities of Madrid, Barcelona, Toledo, Zaragoza, and Segovia, Spain. The tentative dates for the trip are December 15th through 17th and through December 23rd of 2017. Excuse me. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion beyond what has taken place in the past? Dr. Colentus, you're comfortable with this trip and recommending it with all the revisions we've put you through and your staff? Okay. So if there are no further discussion, if there's no further discussion, may I ask for a roll call?
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Mr. Small? Culver? Aye. Ms. Littleworth?
Aye, motion passes. We move to action item 8D. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the international field trip sponsored by the Highland Park High School Chorale to the cities of Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, Cordoba, Granada, and Toledo, Spain. The tentative dates for the trip are March 30th through April 7th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there further discussion or any comment from Dr. Colentus?
I'm not comfortable with this. Did you ever travel?
I'll tell Ms. Owens you said so. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Ms. Culver? Small? Ms. Lawby? Aye. Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Littleworth?
Aye, motion passes. Okay, we now move to item 8E, the review of closed session minutes recommendations. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the destruction of the closed session audio recordings from July 16th, 2012 through June 10th, 2013 as presented. It is further recommended that the board approve those closed session minutes that are to remain closed or open as presented on the attached list that includes September 12th, 2016 through February 13th, 2017. First of all, is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Is there a discussion? And Elena, you reviewed it with Stacy. Do you have anything to further report on this?
Only that in some cases, the subject of discussion was enhanced a bit to include perhaps something that wasn't in the original documentation. And it was reviewed with Sandra Hasso as well, so that we have all parts of that documentation to be consistent.
Okay. All right. Is there any other inquiry or discussion? Hearing none, this is also a roll call vote.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Ms. Littleworth?
Aye. Motion passes. We now move to the resolution for honorable dismissal and reduction of hours of teachers. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt the resolution for honorable dismissal and reduction of hours of teachers as presented. There is a revision to this in that two people's names were spelled incorrectly. They are now correct.
I need a motion.
May I ask for a motion, please, with the revisions? Is there a second? Is there any further discussion?
Just, I know, whenever anybody reads this, and if it's the first time you're reading it, or if you have never, if you've read it before and are concerned by it, the law dictates how these are supposed to read, and sometimes they appear a bit harsh, but it is strictly law, and in past experience, people have responded to it or reacted to it. Its harshness, sometimes teachers are called back. But this is because of FTE in the current time. But it is dictated by law what this notice has to say.
Okay. Any further comments? Ms. Gordon?
I'd just like to thank Dr. Dignam and the entire staff of the schools and administration building for working through the staffing process so diligently and thoughtfully. I agree with Debbie that anytime you see honorable dismissal, it's always a bit jolting because these are real people. I know the leaders in our district work this hard to make sure there was minimal impact to individuals and that we are well serving our students with the ultimate staffing that we have, and that's, I applaud everyone for the great work done to get there.
Dr. Dignam.
Thank you. I would just like to make one comment. Those changes, and Debbie's correct, by law, we must present that information, but those are baseline data changes as we look at staffing right now. And so what we're committed to doing, if there were reductions, is ensuring that those staff members that were impacted are the ones that we look at first when we need to make those adjustments. And so Tom Krieger and I have had that discussion with DEA this week, with both the president and vice president explaining those reductions and how they have come up and what our willingness is and what we are committed to doing to ensure that we still support staff as we continue with this process.
All right, so roll call vote.
Mr. Small. Ms. Culver. Ms. Gordon. Ms. Lobby.
Aye.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Goodwin.
Aye, motion passes. We now move to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel, financial reports, and Board of Ed travel and meal expenses. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
I reviewed the bills this month with Mr. Bullock. He pulled quite a few, actually, and instead of just going through the routine, we also did individual expenses, so thank you very much for that. Everything was in order, so I feel very comfortable in stating that. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing that there is none, this is a roll call, please.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Lobby.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon. Ms. Culver. Mr. Small. Ms. Goodwin.
Aye, motion passes. We now move to our second citizen comment period. And Ms. Bittner, I had you down. If you'd like to go to the podium.
I want to speak to an email that I sent to you that was forwarded to Dr. Dignam. I do not believe that it was given to the rest of the board, so after I sent the email, which regarded his contract, I don't know why it would be forwarded to your superintendent, but I was called on a Friday night at 9:15, and the manner in which he spoke to me was very inappropriate, threatening, and if he treats a member of the community and a parent like that, I can only imagine the way that he is treating his staff. It was unacceptable. Then I got emails and calls from other people questioning what I had sent in the email from other board members, which was also not appropriate. When he called me, he asked me, did I have a problem with Chicago Public Schools and hiring for Dr. Calentis' job. I do not know Dr. Calentis, but I have had many Highland Park people, teachers, contact me. This is not right. What's that? Did he leave because he was pursued? Maybe. Things that were discussed with me, which shouldn't have even been discussed with me because they're personnel items. I don't care why Dr. Calentis, but his staff does not want him to leave. So it's his choice to leave, but when we are replacing him, I hope that it is with someone like him, because he has done a lot of very good things in Highland Park, and I think it's a shame that he is leaving. I attended the sounding board that you had. I was the only parent there except for Lizzie. No one spoke to me except Helena, Debbie, and Stacy Meyer. Dr. Dignam did not even greet me when I walked in because he obviously was angry about whatever I put. It's inappropriate the way that you treat me as a parent and a community member. And I have a really big mouth. I just want you to know that.
Ms. Small.
Hi, my name is Amy Small. I'm actually a parent in Highland Park High School. I'm also a representative on the Highland Park PTO. And I am so glad I'm speaking after you. We were involved, the PTO has been involved in a number of principal searches. as you all know. And the way this one is being conducted is a little bit different. I know it's the same way as the Deerfield principal is being conducted, but it's not the way the previous one. We had 4 or 5 parent representatives on that last Highland Park search. In light of the, excuse me, I'm a little nervous. Haven't talked to all you guys in 2 years.
It's been a while.
In light of the fact that there were 24 parents that requested to be on the committee, and only 2 were chosen, is a little distressing because there are a lot of parents that feel like you do. We love Dr. Colentus. We are very concerned that he's leaving. We're very concerned about who's going to replace him. We're very concerned that history not repeat itself. We've lived through a nightmare 2 years ago, and we don't, or maybe it's 3 now, I don't even remember. We don't want to go through that again. We want this to be a very transparent process. And we would really like you to reconsider having some more parents on that committee and maybe some more staff on that committee and maybe some more students on that committee. People that work with Dr. Colentus every single day and know what Highland Park needs as opposed to Deerfield. They are very different schools with a very different population. And we feel very strongly as a PTO that things are not exactly as clear and transparent as they could be. I think a lot of what you said tonight helped answer some questions because we received very contradictory explanations of how parents were chosen, which I still don't know whether they were random or selected. And we are very concerned, and we would like to make sure that we are apprised and would like you to reconsider possibly adding more parents to the committee. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carl Lambrecht. I'm coming to this meeting. I noticed that the document for this meeting is 70 pages long. That's a lot of pages, you know, to read. I did that last night, to some extent. I went for page, but I didn't need every detail. And I spent a lot of time in the past coming to policy meetings. And one thing that I noticed characteristic of policy meetings, it took a lot of time, a lot of effort was done, and a lot of expensive people were involved in the policies. And basically, I've experienced that after a policy was locked in stone, a few months later it had to change. The state of Illinois changed the law. And one thing you have to realize with Illinois policies and Illinois law, they both change. You have the right to request a change in the law if you don't think it's right. As you all know, I think schools have too much administration. And I've made proposals in this regard. You have a young superintendent, he could take over all these schools. I mean, the last superintendent of the grade schools for Highland Park had about 20-some-odd thousand students. What I'm proposing is something about the same. It was a school district somewhere in the Elgin area. It was the second largest, I think, in the state, after the biggest one being Chicago. So those are my comments, and since I've seen these before, people recognize them. And I think a reduction in administrative costs is reasonable. And as you probably can see, I'm carrying something with me, this yellowish thing, school choice. You know, if somebody wants to go to Deerfield or Highland Park High School, it's a ritual, and it's not always granted. Yet now, children are going from one end of the area to another end of the area. Anyway, those are my idle comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens' comments? Okay, I need a motion for the board to meet in closed session for the discussion of the placement of individual students in special ed programs and other matters relating to individual students, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, legal counsel, or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel of the public body to determine its validity, and discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act. May I have a motion? Want to say something? It's not really news, isn't it? Michelle's waiting anxiously.
Second? Oh, she did.
All
right, roll call.
Okay, it's a roll call, please.
Ms. Gordon? Aye. Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Mr. Small? Aye. Ms. Lawby? Aye. Ms. Culver? Aye. Ms. Littleworth?
Aye, motion passes. We'll meet in 5 minutes at 9 p.m.
Time to move my car.
Yes.